yeah, we get a lot of questions from new directors about how to get representation abroad. So as Juan said, we have Lou from Landia, who is a production company headquartered in Argentina with offices worldwide. She'll be talking to us about their practice, and then we have two fantastic directors to talk to after that. I'll just come to Lou first of all. So hi Lou, would you like to tell us a bit more about you and a bit more about Landia?
Hi Caroline, thank you. I'm super happy to be here today. And before starting about the technicalities and how at Landia we work with representation, and before my head goes anywhere else and I forgot to say this, I would like to mention that for me, it's very important for directors out there who are watching this. At the moment of being signed or represented by a company in their main region or in other parts of the world, is very crucial to me that they be surrounded by producers or production companies or a team that really respects the world of a director and their work. And I'm saying this because you have chosen to be a director, and my fellow companions here, I think will agree, are very, very exposed to dealing with, on a daily basis, with rejection, exposure, judgment, and hard work in order to get each project. So it's very important for you to choose companies that represent you and help you with the direction you envision for your career. And that they have the will, the energy, and that they believe in you. And I think it's something that you see with time and with experience that I'm sure Christina and Alan can share after. In Landia, the way it works, and you're gonna have with us like a great scope of some different ways of representations. We have 5 offices and we operate globally, and we have in each office, in each country, we have directors that are local. We represent directors from other offices at Landia. And on the other hand, we have international directors like Alan Masferrer here that we represent through our offices for local agencies and for local clients. And at the same time, we are reps, some of our directors are reps in other countries where Landia doesn't have offices. And also we receive many projects from different countries, from agencies, from agents, and from fellow production companies that we don't know them. But besides representing directors and having them in a roster, depending on specific projects, we have other directors on a radar, or we work with fellow companies from other countries to see new options of directors if a project or if the availability of our own directors is not there for a specific campaign. So that's mainly, and you can see how different kinds of representation directors can find.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. So Landia, you're one of the leading production companies in Argentina. Where are your other offices?
We have an office in LA, another office in Spain. We have an office in Brazil and in Mexico. And we have an office in Portugal since 2019, but mostly focused on production services for other companies that we provide them, or for our own offices to shoot in Portugal.
Okay, great. And your clients are mainly advertising agencies. Is that true to say?
Yes, advertising agencies and clients sometimes, and mainly some local agencies from South America or Mexico also work with global campaigns. So we work for different kind of scales of productions, but it happens also in LA and in Spain. And the movement, which is our division for emerging talent, they are more focused on working with artists in music videos or short films or special projects mainly. So we have different kind of views.
Okay, great. Thank you. I should tell people, if you have questions, there's a chat function in YouTube, so you can write questions in on the side. So please do if you've got any questions. So we'll come to Christina now. So Christina, would you like to tell us about you as a director, where you are physically and where you are in terms of your career as well?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. And hello. I'm a U.S. based director. I'm in Los Angeles currently, and kind of split time between the East and the West Coast when traveling was much more frequent. I have representation here in the States with Dress Code. They're located in New York. And my work is, I'm an emerging director. I've kind of transitioned from stills, and I have a very hyper real point of view, very colorful. I just want to sprinkle a little absurdity and a little joy into whatever projects come my way, because I think we all are kind of burdened with a little bit too much seriousness in our lives, so we need to be shaken out of it sometimes. And yeah, I mean, I think what's been interesting and just kind of engaging with Shiny and Caroline over the last few months is before COVID, I've been seeking representation, at least just kind of beginning in Europe. And I kind of have this strange, like, you're supposed to be at the right place at the right time, but I feel like I'm in the right time, but maybe not the right place. I kind of, American advertising can sometimes be in this like box, and I don't know if I always fit in that box. And so I felt like, you want to find your tribe, you want to find the creatives that align with you. And so why not open that door and just see where that potential, partnerships can align in the future. So I started that journey, and for COVID, I kind of stopped because I felt like maybe that I had to shut the door on that idea. But recently I've been rewriting that narrative, just because COVID in a way makes it so anyone can be anywhere and you can be remotely directing. So now it's almost like international growth is something that you can look at through a completely different lens, because everyone's feeling so much more comfortable with the virtual production model. So I'm trying to flip the script in my head, because I think it's really exciting how things have shifted. But I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on that too, Luciana.
That's really interesting that you're one of the reasons why you want to look at other territories to work in is not just to, well, I don't know what reasons people might have. We'll talk to Alan as well and find out what his interests are. But it didn't occur to me that you might be looking for different kinds of clients elsewhere.
Well,
different cultures maybe.
Yeah, I think it's a cultural taste thing. I think there is, and maybe it's just the grass is always greener, perhaps, but from the projects that are here, I think there's so many very interesting and great projects, but I often see kind of like a tone. It's not even maybe a different type of work, because I think my work can spread across multiple genres, but it's more so like this tonal shift that I feel more connected with outside of the States. So I was just kind of exploring that gut feeling, really.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, very much so. And I think I know what you mean as well. So Alan, to you, can you tell us a bit about you as a director, where you are in your career, and also where you are in the world right now?
Well, that's a good question, because I have no idea right now. I mean, right now it's very complicated to answer that. But well, I will say, I started a few years ago with doing music videos, as you well know. Then I started getting into commercials, as the usual. It's a usual progression in directors, and I'm now mainly working with commercials. I would love to do more music videos, but it's music videos. Well, we should do another panel about that. because it's very complicated to do them. But yeah, now I'm starting to work worldwide in commercials. It's been quite. It was funny what what Christina said, because actually in my case as well, I started to expand myself when I could get out of Spain. I'm based in Barcelona, and I couldn't make a living of directing until I get out of Spain. So that was what really opened my doors. And music videos helped a lot, because music videos, the budget of music videos is very low, and you have to work in very hard conditions. But they can open the doors in many other international at an international level, and this is what led me work abroad. And this is why now I can be a director of commercials worldwide. So it's and now the situation is quite it's quite quirky, as everybody knows. Luckily now I'm working a lot, but it's been hard to find a project in the first 6 months of the year, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. Luckily now it seems like we are starting to being able to travel. So now, for example, I'm in a job out of Spain, and well, let's see what happens. But hopefully things get better in the next year, and we can keep working everywhere, which is one of the most interesting things about this job.
I think that's a really good point you make about music videos being a very good international way to communicate with other potential reps, because it does translate much easier than an ad, doesn't it? Because ads are very specific.
Yes, exactly. Because with music videos you can express yourself. You can have your, you as a director, you have with music videos you write the script. You develop your own ideas, so people can see what's your style. So the companies and the agencies and clients can see what is your personality, which is what can make a difference. And the reason they are so important is that you can really have your own voice on this.
Yeah. So looking at your website, you're represented by 7 different companies in 9 different countries, or 9 different territories. That's amazing.
Yes, it is.
Who was your first rep outside of Spain?
At the beginning, first one was in the UK. I joined at Colonel Blimp. Then it was merged by Blink. But then I changed the representation there, and I'm represented by Friend in the UK. And then every country has its own story. But the most important thing, and according to what Lou said before, it's very important in this regard that you feel supported by the company you feel represented. And in this regard, it's because directing is a very lonely profession. You are alone in front of all the agency, all the clients, even the crew, because when you work abroad, you don't know the crew you are working with. Most times it's the first time you work with them. So you really need this support. And it's very important that when you are represented by a company, you feel that. And this is why actually I took a lot of attention to every company, because it's not about being represented just to get a representation. It's about getting that real support and feeling that they really love your work, and then they really push for you. And then when you get when you start working with them, they really give you the support. So it's complicated because it takes time to know each other, but it's really important that one of my recommendation is that you really you try to have a good a deep relationship with the companies. It's not about appearing in the website. That doesn't mean anything. I've been represented by bigger companies in some countries than the ones that I'm represented now, but I was a name on that website and I never got a job or even a script. So you have to find your place everywhere, and this is really important to get the right attention at every market, because every market is very specific as well.
Mm-hmm. Are you saying that if as a director you're offered representation, or if a company says we really like your work, we'd really like you to join our roster, are you saying that it's best if you don't go fantastic immediately, that you go out with them, that you spend a lot of time talking with them? How do you negotiate that initial part of the relationship?
It depends. I mean, for me, there is no a unique method. It depends, because sometimes, for example, at Landia, I was recommended by one of my friends, Ian Panjuel. So when Ian recommended me to join Landia, because I really trust my friend, then I know that it's a place that I should go, and I already trust them in that case. But then with other companies, I waited until working together, and because I mean now a good option is to be a freelance as well, because especially nowadays where now the things are more open than ever, you can get many options as a freelance, and you can know many different companies, and you can start working with them, and then you can sign at the company if you already trust them and you have felt that support. That's my situation right now in the US. In the US now I'm a freelance after being represented by another company for some years. I never got a script from them, so I left them, and now I have the chance to get scripts from different companies, and let's see what happens. But now I'm exploring that the US in that way.
Christina, I'm going to come back to you in a minute, but Lou, in Landia, how do you deal with new directors, particularly bearing in mind what Alan just said about taking your time and getting that feel for whether you really like each other and you really want to give support and so on?
This is my personal method when working in Landia and seeing the work, and I will say more things about when we get projects from countries where they want to represent us, and that's another chapter. But the new director, in a case of a established director or a director that you see the real and you immediately fell in love with, that was the case with Alan, you want to represent them, and you have an idea by your experience that it's gonna do well, you know, that it's going to be, well, we know how we treat directors, so we are sure of that. But the main thing about when we are contacted by a director, we always answer, but sometimes you feel that it needs more time, so you have them on your radar and wait for a good project with the hopes that director is not signed by another company. So that's a risk you take, but sometimes you don't want to lose to waste other people's time, you know, if they need to sign a representation in somewhere. But some directors that we are in contact with, we look at directors' work like almost every day, but there are directors that you are sure that you can represent them and that are going to be treated well. And you hope for the best from the other side, you know, that they are adorable persons, hardworking, that they are humble, regardless of their amazing talent. But it happens a lot that they ask us for exclusivity in other regions, and we don't sign exclusivity with our directors, but because you don't know the market. Sometimes it's really far away. You don't know how it works. You don't know if that company is the one who gets the one that gets the best projects, you know. But at the same time, for directors who are starting and looking for representations, I would say that they try, if they are contacted by a company, whether it's the biggest or the smallest, just do the experience. And once you enter, hopefully the pitch is there, you can see the possibility of switching to another company or switching to another rep that works with freelance directors. But the thing I have to say with representations is that patience is a very important part of your side, you know, as a director, because some agencies, I'm not speaking about music videos, but more in advertising, the agencies have to have the first experiences with you in order to give you the biggest projects, you know. And I'm not talking about budget. I'm speaking about creative, you know, that for sure. So it happens sometimes that I may have directors who complain about the level of creativity they receive from a company or from a country, but they are testing you in a way. Mm-hmm. My personal opinion. Sometimes there is a superb reel and they know these directors are going to reject the project, but sometimes they need you to work first in the smallest projects to see how they relate with you. I don't know what Christina and Alan think of what I'm saying.
Christina.
Yes.
I was, as well as.
Did you think I was frozen?
As well as responding to what Lucia said, I was also going to say, so you can mix this up with that. Would you like to ask Lou questions yourself as a director looking for representation?
Sure. Yeah, I think what I was referring to earlier too is just if you see COVID, working with international directors is almost kind of exponentially more possibilities now, or are you being more selective because it's, you know, during these times, you know, obviously we'll get through this time, but just in your kind of point of view of those conversations that you've been engaging with, I'm sure they're probably very much more like specified, just knowing that there may be, you know, restrictions. Or do you just, if you feel something and you see that there's a potential, you just kind of keep that door open? Is that kind of, do you just operate from your gut and intuition? Or?
Well, first, during this context, we are all learning how to move in projects, but depends on where the project is shooting, you know. Mm-hmm. It depends on if you can fly a director, or if the client and the agency and the director is willing to do the project remotely, because that's also a possibility. Mm-hmm. But in our case, I have to tell you that this is not something that has stopped us in the pages or looking at talent. It hasn't come up. What has come up is when they ask me for directors from our own company, but they want them to be based in countries where they can fly, or based in Europe because it's better for them to be, I don't know, Alan, if you agree, but where it's more open, rather than in South America that the airports were a bit more difficult to deal with, you know, because of the quarantine and everything. But creatively, depends on the projects, we try to make it happen. It hasn't stopped us. with the kind of directors, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, I think that now things are starting to get normalized in this kind of unusual situation. So now, for example, the agencies know that they need to be remote. They cannot be at the shoot. That's one thing. Then directors and DOPs we are starting to be able to fly easily to many countries. Of course, every country has restrictions and they change every day, but we are starting to be able to fly and to work in many different places. So I think that, I mean, as usual, I mean, now we have COVID, but maybe if this panel was last year, we would be talking about other difficulties. There are always difficulties in the process, many difficulties, and we have to be very open to and reactive to face them, and that's the main point. So, okay, I don't mind if it's COVID or if it's I don't know, because this crisis, next crisis. I mean, there are always things, you know. Okay, well, let's face it in a most positive way, and let's find solutions. That's I think that's the attitude. Of course, it's not always possible that this attitude keeps you there, act reactive to possible solutions.
And also, sorry, Caroline.
Carry on.
Okay, one thing about what they said before, when choosing representations abroad, that apart from being patient, just try to do, if you're a director searching for representations, it's good if you do your own research, you know, and see which companies will you identify with and which countries, and understanding that many regions work really different from the one you may be at, you know. There are countries where for each project they present hundreds of directors for the same projects, and there are others that just present 10 and select 3 for the pitch. And it's something very important, because sometimes you get frustrated, but you have to understand how that country works in order to understand that the odds may be smaller than in other countries, but in other countries also it can happen that the competition is fierce because there's such a great local talent. So you have to be very focused on some and hope for the best in others, not to be frustrated if you don't get projects from all over the world, because sometimes you receive projects from some countries and you feel that you are really needed there, but it's happening with a lot of directors, you know. So you have to be very relaxed and not anxious, because it's gonna be frustrating, and some other smaller markets may need you a bit more. I mean,
would it make sense for somebody like Christina, who lives in LA, you have an office in LA, but she's actually interested in representation maybe in Argentina, would it make sense for her to connect with the LA office and you, or does that?
No, for representations in South America, we have our offices, or Buenos Aires, which is our headquarters for representations for South America, besides all the offices that have their own selection for directors. But for sure, for South America, it's through one of the offices or me in Buenos Aires.
Right. So, because I was thinking, Alan said that he came to Landia via in Pons Jewel, saying Landia are fantastic. Is it conceivable that a director would come to you because the LA office have said they really vibe with Argentina?
For sure. And if I may, I will have Alan in all the offices, but but for sure, it depends on if the representation is for Spain. Like if Cristina is interested in being represented by by Landia Spain, it goes through that office. And that's what I do in any production company, you know, which are the countries that you are mostly interested in, and go for the EP or the director or scouter or whomever you feel is the best option. And be patient. Yeah. I've seen Christina work and it's amazing, but it sometimes I believe that the time comes for if you think that a production company would be the best for you. You just had to be sorry.
I would that it's very important, the patience, because you need to be, I mean, you never know, but you need to try to do the right steps at every time. It's very important because the career is very long, so you really have to be patient. I totally agree with that, but you also have to be very perseverant. Perseverance is really important in this job. So the two things together, I think that's key to get you there.
Okay, so patience and perseverance. So, Christina, what's your experience like so far with beginning this process of reaching out to directors, reps, and EPs outside of the US?
Yeah, well, I think it was very interesting, because I think it is speaking to the patience conversation, because even the relationship I've nurtured in the US, that took about 2 years, and you just know when the energy is right, when you feel like that team has your back in every way possible when trying to go after something competitively that you're passionate about. And I completely agree that I know there's a lot of people that think like not being represented is a route, but having that team and finding that right team abroad is something I just have to kind of feel out through many conversations. So far it's been a lot of like interest in the work and just be in touch and continue to be in touch. But I think what's interesting is how do you still nurture, more intimate conversations with people that are far away, which is like this. So I think, getting face to face with people virtually is something I want to just try more reaching out, because I think people are zoomed out and they're kind of a little bit sick of it, but at the same time, you still do feel connected, and it's better than in a cold email that you can't really like truly engage with somebody. So I think that might be like my next step, is just following up with people again and just seeing if they do like a quick 15-minute coffee chat or something, but so yeah. You
did very well at Berlin Commercial Awards recently, didn't you? Was that strategic in any way, in that are you interested in following up with Berlin-based or German-based?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the US, well, London is sort of a real beacon of energy, and then from that comes these amazing burgeoning groups of creative spaces. So just from looking onward, Amsterdam and Berlin just have so much energy going on, as well as Barcelona. But I think so. Yeah, I guess I was trying to connect with that market in a way and just see where it could lead. But I think you either go through the back door or the front door. I don't know. It can all happen in various ways. But also, people have been telling me like just getting representation in London is a real core to be able to kind of use it as like a jumping off point. But everyone has different stories, I'm sure.
Alan, what's your take on that? Because your first foreign representation was UK, was London.
Well, it's a bit contradictory, my feeling with that, because I started being represented in the UK, but right now I'm doing the first commercial for the UK after a long time. So you know what I mean. I mean, what I would say is, no matter where they come from, where the projects come from, you have to be, again, very open, because you never know where you will have a chance to do a good job. And I've got scripts. I mean, two of my best projects. Well, one of them comes from China, another one will come from Qatar. So it's and who knows? And the most important thing is that you find a project that let you do something interesting, something that you can add something personal in it. And I don't mind where it comes from. And so I would be, because sometimes I have the feeling, many directors, mainly focus on the UK and the US. Of course, some of the best agencies out there, and it's a pleasure to work with them. But it's not everything there. There's much more to explore, and I recommend to have the eyes open, to keep the eyes open. And
on that very positive advice there about the world being a big place full of opportunities.
Yeah, it is. I really think so.
That's great. We have to finish now. We've come to the end. So thank you all. That was great. That was a really interesting discussion for me. I didn't know so much about it, but great advice. So Lou and Alan are both really pushing the patience and persistence and support. Look for support. And Christina's backing that up as well. So good luck, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thanks.